Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about what, in my humble opinion, is a shocking counterintuitive truth about payment in the tabletop role-playing game industry. It's specifically on Dungeons and Dragons, design jobs. And here's the shocking counterintuitive truth: there is a very good reason that the D&D design team makes dirt and does not get paid well. Let's get into it. Here we go. Buckle up. The roller coaster's clicking up, right? We're going to take the plunge. Here we go. All right. Okay, so I'm a very fortunate dude. I know a lot of people. And I was recently talking to a friend of the family, and she taught, this woman I know, she taught in the Philadelphia public school system for 2 decades. And she recently left, right? And she left to go work at a private school, right? And when she went to the private school, she makes literally, I think, a third of what she was making from 20 years in the public Philadelphia school system. But things had been bad before the Great Pandemic. But once the Great Pandemic happened, she said, like, her mental health just went to heck in a handbasket because there were so many challenges with the job, right? And so now she wasn't making it. She was making a pretty good amount. Like, if you work for 20 years in the public school system, you can make a pretty decent amount as a school teacher. But now she's right back to making dirt, right? Like, and the reason why, and she gave up a ton. She gave up a ton because she was probably 5-10 years away from retirement, and she would have retired with a solid nut, right? Like, it really would have been significant, right? And she would have been a heck of a lot better off. But she scrapped all that and then started at scratch at this private school because the work was so brutal, right? And it was really impacting her mental health, right? So let's talk about this. So basically, in America, if you are a public school teacher, right? Let's just talk about a first grade teacher, right? You make dirt. You make nothing, right? Like, it is just horrendous. You can make more money in virtually any other field, right? So, and this is an American truth, right? We pay public school teachers close to nothing, like just the barest scraps, right? And it's exactly like another problem in America where, like, okay, in America, people use these tools that throw projectiles, right? And they'll go out and they'll just murder a whole bunch of people. And then the news, all the mainstream news organizations come out. Every major newspaper writes an editorial. There's a whole bunch of coverage, and absolutely nothing changes, right? It's just an American truth, right? It's like, hey, we have these freedoms in America, and this is a terrible cost of that freedom, but it's never going to change, right? And it's the same thing with teacher pay. People squawk about it, they talk about it, it never changes, ever, right? And so it's this horrible American truth, right? And it just remains. Why? All right, here we go. Here's why, okay? For the reason public school teachers make dirt. I'm not saying this should be, I'm saying it is, okay? In my humble opinion, this is the truth of the matter. This is why we arrive at this reality. So here we go. It's a noble job, okay? If you are a public school teacher and you are doing this job, right? You are genuinely helping the American society, right? And you are doing it sacrificially. You are being a knight, right? Knight, right? And, a knight of the crown, right? Like, you are literally serving the government. You're serving the people. You are doing this incredibly important thing. And you are doing it specifically as a sacrifice to yourself. Now, why would we do this? Why would we preserve this in America? Listen closely, right? Because it has to be this way, right? We cannot allow villains in these spaces, right? So if there's no reward to do this job, only the most noble people get close to our first graders and teach them publicly, right? And so the job is so important that it has to be done by these monk-like figures, right? It's the same thing with Dungeons and Dragons, right? For a long time, people are like, oh, well, you don't make anything in tabletop role-playing games because everybody wants to do it and it's super fun, right? So they don't have to pay anybody because there's a line of 10,000 men in America, and frankly, I don't think the line is very long for women. Please tell me if I'm wrong there, but the reality is, right now, Dungeons and Dragons still to this day is a majority male players, male dungeon masters, and frankly, male people who wanna design. And so there's a line of 10,000 men. Maybe there's 1,000 women. Maybe there's 3,000. You could tell me the number. It certainly isn't equal, right? And we know this because there's never been a point in the history of the game where more men played or dungeon mastered, right? So it's unlikely that. And just look at history. There's literally never been a female design lead on Dungeons and Dragons, not once, right? So I think that's safe to say. So you have a line of 10,000 men who would chop off their left arm to be a D&D canon hardback writer, right? And and so they don't. So at first, I think we thought, well, you don't have to pay anybody to be a tabletop role-playing game, a Dungeons and Dragons designer, because everybody wants to do it. It's super fun. But now we arrive there, right? I'm saying it publicly. Dungeons and Dragons is a human flourishment tool designed by Gary Gygax to be a human flourishment tool disguised as a game, right? But I think subconsciously people know this. They know that Dungeons and Dragons is a part of human evolution and that it is transforming human narrative, and it is this powerful tool that already confident, intelligent, charismatic people are using to leapfrog over the humans next to them to be able to do and accomplish more and be more, right? And so I think what we're saying as Americans is like, this is so noble, just like teaching first graders, and it's so important to human flourishment across the globe that only monk-like, good-aligned people can do it, right? So only those who are willing to sacrifice are going to be in these positions, and it's worked, right? James Introcaso, D&D canon author, right? One of the nicest people you would ever meet, right? Jeremy Crawford, Christopher Perkins, Todd Kenrick. These people are Amanda Heyman, right? These are it's clear they have their lives together. They're, you don't get these weird, horrible behavior, issues surrounding them, right? And just look over onto OSR and you can see the exact opposite. You got a dude over there, owning the name Venger Satanis and constantly getting banned from every platform we can get. Like, it's working, right? The fact that these people aren't paid means only these monk-like, good-aligned humans are willing to do tabletop role-playing game design, right? So I'm not saying this is the way it should be. I want you guys to be clear. I'm saying we should pay these people well, right? But even that, it does get strange because, like, you quite literally don't need to pay them well because there's a huge line at the dirt pay line. There's a huge line of people willing to do it. And it's still the same way with teachers. There's still a lot of people who are like, oh, I love kids. I want to work with them. And they run off, and there's no shortage of teachers right now. And there's no shortage of tabletop role-playing designers, despite the fact that it pays nothing, right? And so what I'm saying is, in my humble opinion, we arrive at the truth of it, right? We have these low pay rates for these two incredibly important jobs, D&D designer and first grade public school teacher, because we cannot allow villains to do this, right? It has to be these monk-like, good-aligned humans that do this because it's so important. Every word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.